end of it. Whenever you speak after somebody like Freya, who is incredibly articulate, it's always a little bit difficult to follow and act like that, but I'm going to try my best. As Dan says, my name's Jake Third. I'm the CEO of Hallam, and this photo you're about to see, despite what it looks like, I'm not actually a magician. I don't know why our creative team have picked that photo. There's no card up my sleeve, but I am 5 years younger there, and that was back when we used to wear suits back in the day. The change in culture since then. What I'm going to be talking about today is I'm going to be articulating a more positive vision for AI transformation within the marketing space, one that's got humans at its center and that basically rejects this notion that success in business means let's automate ourselves completely into oblivion just for the sake of profit. It rejects that notion. And I'm going to do it rather ambitiously by trying to draw a thread through 3 different chapters. The chapters I'm going to try to connect are defining first what great marketing is, to then connect that to how is AI changing that dynamic, and then to end on what does this mean for your company, what does this mean for your careers as individuals. So I am going to define great marketing, and I hate to, is it teach your grandma to suck eggs? Is that the idiom that people use? That's an odd idiom, isn't it? I hate to sit in a room full of marketers and say, this is what I think great marketing is, but that is what I'm about to do, so bear with me. In my opinion, great marketing has 2 functions. It's making you easy to remember, and it's making you easy to buy from. And there's a lot of fancy different ways of saying this, but at its core, that's what it's about. This dichotomy is kind of like 2-speed marketing. You see a lot of models that touch into this 2-speed marketing, and they're all saying the same thing. I think Mark Ritson, if you've heard of Mark Ritson, he calls it bothism. I would do audience participation. Actually, let's do it. Has anyone seen this model before? Oh, fewer than I thought. Oh, you have, okay. So this is from the B2B, LinkedIn B2B Marketing Institute. This is specifically for B2B, and it argues that 95% of your buyers at any given time are not in market and they're not looking for your services. Common problem that a lot of marketing teams face. They spend all of their budget targeting that 5% who's in market to try and get the immediate results. It becomes incredibly expensive. They burn through that pool. Meanwhile, they haven't targeted any of those people who are out of market. But that's saying the same thing as the first model. Another way of saying it, has everyone seen this model, this famous graph? Yep, you've seen it, sir. Can you remember who it's by for extra brownie points? Yeah, Benet and Field. Yeah, very good. Oh, it's in the bottom. Shit. I think he did that intuitively. He knew. Don't take his thunder away from him. So there's Benet and Peter Field. So basically this is saying the same thing. They looked at effectiveness of marketing and advertising, and they basically found that the ideal split of your budget is 60% to be spent on brand, 40% to be spent on sales activation. And again, this is all saying the same thing because the sales activation is targeting the people who are in market now, and that's making you easy to buy from, the first point I made, and the brand building is targeting the people out of market, and they're making it easy to remember you. So all of this is saying the same thing, and it can be broken down into simple language. Has anyone read How Brands Grow by Byron Sharp? Do you want to come up and do the next part of the talk on that? Is it a good book? Do you recommend it to people? Yeah, so it's worth reading this, or if you just go into Claude and ask it to do a quick overview because nobody has the attention span for a book anymore. But have a look at what he's saying with How Brands Grow, because he makes the argument that you grow your business not necessarily just through client retention, but by acquiring new customers. How do you acquire new customers? He says you acquire new customers when 2 things come together: mental availability and physical availability. And when they coalesce, that is how you grow. You'll see that's just another way of saying being easy to remember and being easy to buy from. So how do we build this mental availability? So let me give you a bit of an example of this. I'm the father of a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and I've spent a lot of the last few years sleep deprived. So imagine I'm going into a supermarket and I want to get an energy drink for a pick-me-up, and I think about Red Bull. Why have I thought about Red Bull? Because Red Bull have invested probably billions, it's probably that much in their brand advertising. They go big with it. You saw that Felix Baumgartner when he jumped from space, that was Red Bull sponsored. You remember Red Bull, you remember the brand. But at that moment, that mental availability, which is you recalling that brand, comes together with physical availability, They've got their own sponsored Red Bull fridge right there, so I can just grab it. The two things have come together at the same time. The purchase is made. Okay, we're B2B. I'll touch on that in a moment, but we're also digital marketers. I asked this question. So I make the contention that paid search isn't advertising. That's an argument that I like to make. And I asked a group of students the other day, what actually is paid search? And one of them said very brilliantly and immediately, it's not advertising, it's the digital form of physical availability. So if I was to take you a step back, mental availability, physical availability, I walked into the supermarket, the fridge was right there, I picked up the Red Bull. The paid search ads are the version of the fridge, because when I'm actually in market and I'm actively searching, they make it easy to be found. What you don't get from a paid search ad is memory structures and brand recall, which is all the function of what advertising is. And again, the mistake that marketers make over and over again, usually because their bosses want instant results, is they throw loads of money at it thinking that's how you grow. But that's not how you grow. There's a lot of marketing science about how you grow. You've got to build mental availability. And how do you do that? So this is the core theme I'd like you to take away from this first chapter. Distinctiveness. They say distinctiveness is how you create memory structures. What is distinctiveness? I'm going to give you an example in a moment because it's easier to describe by just giving you the example. I'll describe what a fluent device is really quickly. That's when people use slogans or mascots or repetition of colours. Should have gone to Specsavers. That's an example of a fluent device. It makes you easy to remember. And I'm going to tie this to B2B in a second, I promise. But to give you an example, I'm not actually going to make you guess this brand because it should be so obvious that it would be patronising. But we like audience participation. What brand is that? Of course, it's Coca-Cola. Of course it is, right? And we all know that Coca-Cola put Santa Claus in red and white. We all know that. It's so distinctive that it's unbelievably obvious. Now, what I find interesting about that is the market capitalization of Coca-Cola is $350 billion. The market capitalization of Pepsi is $150 billion, 3 times that of Pepsi. And it's all just sugar water. It's not the distribution networks that's driving that. It's brand that's driving that. That's 200 billion of company value created by brand, which is totally irrational and nonsense. And this is the thing, we've been trained to think like robots. As marketers, we've become so mechanistic in how we approach things. This is totally irrational. You put Santa in red and white, you put a lorry out there, 200 billion of valuation driven by it. People then say to me, but this doesn't apply to B2B. It does apply to B2B. There's plenty of research on this applying to B2B, because amazingly, B2B buyers are also humans. So B2B companies with a strong brand command 46% higher market share than weaker brands. I touched on this a moment ago. Only 5% of B2B buyers are in market looking for your services at any given time. And then quite interestingly, when these people who are out of market, they're not looking for you, come into market and they've got a need, they've already, 93% of them, already have a shortlist and know who they want to work with. 93%, they've got a day one list that as they come into market, they already want to buy from them. Because somebody has built their brand, their reputation, their trust and their loyalty before they were even in market. And it doesn't matter how much SEO you do, you're not going to SEO your way out of that. Because nobody gets fired for buying IBM. And this force is so strong, it's why last year I repositioned our agency around this phrase, be chosen before the search begins. I'm not saying search and discovery and LLMs, they're a critical part of being found when people are in market. That's the sales activation. It's the equivalent of not being in an LLM or being in Google search is like not having that Red Bull fridge in the supermarket. You have to have it, it's essential. But we've learned to think that that's all that marketing is. And we've forgotten that Coke's valuation has not been driven by any of that. This is what B2B marketing tends to look like. We've got a lot of clients in these kind of sectors. They're cybersecurity, they're SaaS, they're compliance, yada yada. And they all like to look like everybody else because it's safe. And there's a word for it. We call it the sea of sameness. They use the same logos, the brands, the colors. And what's really interesting is when you decide to take a contrarian brand position, which often just means sometimes just using colors that are at the opposite end of the color wheel to who's in the sea of sameness, it pops and it stands out. So this is one of our clients, Covert Swarm. Instead of like leading with a lot of the pen and penetration testing stuff that cybersecurity do, you deserve to be hacked, bright, bold colours. And there's a lot of research that shows this is more likely to get clicked on. Your advertising effectiveness goes up, your ROI goes up by taking a contrarian brand position. So what I'm trying to demonstrate is the same, I don't want to say tricks of the trade, the same marketing science that applies to B2C applies to B2B as well. So the first section, quick summary, only 5% of B2B buyers are in market at any given time. When they come into market, they have a day one list that they're ready to buy from, which means that you've got to be top of mind. And to become top of mind, you need to build mental availability, which means distinctiveness. So distinctiveness is the key takeaway. Can I sit on a stool? Is that something that people do when they give talks? Just got to take a moment. Speaking so quickly, I just want to take a breath. Yeah, exactly. I like it. Or what Tony said, and just take a pause and draw people in. That's chapter 1. So how does AI change this dynamic? So we produce enough content now every single day that if they were books, it would be enough to cover the whole world twice over, every single day. 90% of all that data that's being produced has been produced in the last 2 years, which roughly corresponds to when people started using ChatGPT properly, right? 90% of the world's data in 2 years. This has meant a proliferation of social media content, so people were talking about the old playbook is broken, you're not getting as many likes and views on your LinkedIn post. Everyone's posting more shit. And 50% of all content is now AI generated. And what I find interesting about this graph, I've stood up now, is the pink line at the bottom is AI generated content and the green line is human generated content. And you can see the lines converging. And my interpretation of that data isn't that it's now reached equilibrium. I actually think that there's more than 50% of the online content is AI generated. It's just that humans and AI and humans are starting to sound like each other, so it's harder to tell apart. So I would be confident in saying the majority of content online is now being produced by AI. So what's the impact of that? I showed you that sea of sameness image before. It amplifies the sea of sameness because everybody's using the same tools, so quite often the same slop is coming out of it. Thereby, it increases the need for distinctiveness. It doesn't mitigate it, it increases the need for it. And that, in turn, is having an impact on the job market. So I didn't even know that this was a job, but there's an increase in demand for jobs with storyteller in the job title, increase in demand for content strategists, community marketing managers, and one of the most in demand are like AI creative directors, because we talked about the sea of slop that's being created because people are using the same tools. It doesn't have to be that way, because talented subject matter experts who then use these tools, like my colleagues, Chris, who was our creative lead, they produce things that are 10 times better than what idiots like me are able to produce, right? So there's actually job growth in certain areas. Has anyone seen this? The capture. It is good. If you've not watched it, I recommend watching it, because it explores the idea of deep fakes and what happens when you literally can't tell if a video or an image is true or not. What happens? And it shows like the intelligence services using it to set people up and all sorts of mishaps, right? So think about that for a moment. What happens when you no longer know what's real and what's not real? And then to give you another recent reference, who saw this one, the Manosphere documentary with Louis Theroux, right? Now, these guys obviously have abhorrent views, but half the time I don't even think they actually believe it. They're doing it to get clout, to beat the algorithm, to get clicks, to monetize their businesses, right? Because of the attention economy. And I used to come up on stages like this a couple of years ago and would talk about the attention economy, the need to grab attention. And I'm not going to pretend that that's not true, but I am predicting that that will change, certainly in the B2B realm, over the coming years. Not that attention's not important, but, ooh, that was a bit loud. But trust becomes more important. That dynamic flows from an attention economy to a trust economy because nobody knows what to trust anymore, even with thought leadership. Just because I've seen your post on LinkedIn, did you even write that? Did you even think that? Is that an original idea? What happens when they've posted that on LinkedIn, then someone invites them to a meeting and they've got no idea what they're actually talking about because it's not their idea. So trust becomes the key dynamic. And AI makes trust flows in interesting ways, and this has been touched upon throughout today. First of all, And we've got Ash coming up in a moment, and he'll be speaking about personal branding, the creator economy, influencer, all of that. It moves from institutional trust to individuals. That's already happening. It's already happened. It's just going to accelerate it. It moves from written word to video, temporarily, until people have video avatars of themselves, being fed a ChatGPT script, and that's a scary future. But for the time being, it moves from written word to video. It moves from digital to analog. Like, we founded Better B2B because we've got a belief in community, but how much better is it to be in real life, right? This is where trust now flows. From proliferation to moderation, if you've now got a Claude API set up, which means you can spin out 1 million pieces of content, I mean, brilliant, well done for getting that set up, but the test becomes, do we actually need to publish that? Does everything need to be vibe coded? And actually, if we put this content out, is it now going to devalue our brand, right? So restraint becomes the skill, not the proliferation of content. And from knowledge to judgment, because if knowledge can just be easily found in an LLM, what matters? Judgment. And we call it internally sense-making matters. So like, I'm the CEO of a company, we employ 50 people, I've done it for 5 years, I've actually tried rolling out AI innovations within the company. What I'm about to go into in the moment isn't AI's idea, it's my own original thoughts from actually doing it, right? And that lands and resonates differently to somebody regurgitating content that they read on AI. So judgment and sense-making becomes more important. And fundamentally, there's always a pendulum swing in our culture, and people begin to crave what they're not getting. And we're going to end up craving what is real, what is authentic, what is human, what is embodied. So to summarize this part, AI has made distinctiveness the biggest competitive advantage. It's made trust the most valuable asset. It's created a premium skill on storytelling, creativity, community building. It's made personal brands, taste and judgment even more valuable than your technical execution, and it's turned restraint into a virtue. I feel like I should walk onto the other side now, but I'll just stay here. Okay, so how is this going to impact on you? How's it going to impact on your careers? Yada, yada, yada. Has anyone seen all of this stuff that you're seeing on LinkedIn all of the time? Like Oracle lays off 20,000 people by Morse code at 6 in the morning, and just like, it's just like they're competing for how like brutal they can make it. So there's either that side of things, which is inhuman, but what I dislike almost as much is like the glee and the celebration with which people push this message, right? This was like, I've seen these in the tube ads. Anyone seen these? She outworks everyone and she'll never ask for a raise. Like, it's bad on so many levels. It's bad on the gender level, it's bad on every level, right? But the point I'm trying to make, and this is the position we're taking at Hallam, is AI layoffs are not an inevitability. They are leadership decisions driven by people who have made those decisions. And I know what it's like being sat in boardrooms and you want instant returns and instant profitability. And there'll be conversations up and down the country in boardrooms at the moment about how are we going to improve Q2's numbers? Is your AI initiative going yet? Do we need those extra people? Lay them off. That is 100% happening right now. But it's not even the best decision. We've just assumed this is the best decision because it's the default and nobody challenges it. And it's based on what I call the efficiency extraction model, right? This is the presumption. AI speeds up a task, it creates capacity, we've got excess capacity, let's cut jobs, equal profit. Okay, that's a model, that's true. And for some companies, maybe that's the right thing to do, I don't know. But that isn't the only model. This is another model, the model that we're pursuing at Hallam, value creation, which is when we put the AI tools in the hands of our creatives, in the hands of our data team, they produce better work. It's better work. And we're using it to innovate in ways that add value to our clients. And then over the years, we're not seen as this like corner-cutting, cost-cutting. You build your reputation. And that reputation leads in turn to growth. And that model may not be right for every company, but it's an alternative. And for me, when I've been rolling out this technology, seeing how it's been used, thinking this through in more detail, it's helped me to create a definition of different types of tasks within marketing. And some tasks in marketing that you'd be working on are closed and some are open. When I say they're closed, they've got a definitive endpoint. You can say, oh, I've done that now. But not all tasks are like that. Some are open tasks and you can keep working on it endlessly. my GIF's not working. If my GIF was working, it would be a bucket with water being poured into it. The point there is a bucket is a finite depth, and the faster you pour water into it, the more time that you've got left at the end. Those are closed tasks. My other video, which also isn't working, is gas. Open tasks are like gas. They expand into the capacity you create. And that's what we're seeing within our company. Our very best people who are using AI the most are not less, they're more busy than everybody else in the entire company because their work has become excellent and they're more in demand than ever. So where is this all these efficiency gains and the heads that we're going to cut? So this is my kind of breakdown for you to see like what kind of like tasks are you actually working on, and some tasks have got a defined end state. They are closed. This is the bucket analogy. These are like website builds, technical SEO audits. If you're trying to build a landing page and you've got to code a landing page, there's only so many ways you're going to code a landing page, and when it's done, right? Now in that situation, the benefit of AI is an efficiency benefit, and if that's all people are doing, yeah, there is a risk that people may look to replace that, right? But not all tasks are like that. Some are open-ended, and for example, when we're putting together a brand strategy or a creative campaign, when's conversion rate optimization done? When's community management done? When's social media done? It's never done. And in those cases, AI actually makes you more effective. It allows you to produce better work. So the impact is actually an upgrade to your capability. So what I'm arguing for is that we actually use the technology to automate the close tasks, which were drudgery and soul-destroying anyway, to free us up to spend more time to do what humans can do, which is creativity, soul, inspiring, originality, and judgment, and spending more time on that. And I'm not just talking about individual level, I'm talking organization-wide. So if you can follow the flow of what I'm saying from the start up until now, great marketing builds trust and distinctiveness. Trust and distinctiveness are built by the open, creative tasks, not the closed ones. AI does replace a lot of closed tasks, and it enhances our ability to do open ones. Therefore, AI should free marketers to spend more time perfecting open tasks requiring creativity, taste, and judgment. It is therefore for those people more of an capability upgrade, not a job threat. But I'm now also just going to do a touch of realism and make some predictions about how I think the technology will impact the job market, because I think it will impact the job market, and I don't think it's favourable for a percentage of society. And that doesn't mean everyone in that group is going to lose their jobs. It may mean salary compression, because I think about this as a quadrant of your talent level versus how well you've mastered technology. Like, are you using the tools? Are you using AI, right? And how much have you mastered that? And in the top quadrant, what I'm seeing is our talented people who are using AI really well are going so far ahead. They are so talented. They are producing such great work. That group, those leaders, my prediction is they will see increases in their salaries, increases in demand for them, and they will earn more money over time. The upskillers, the high talent but low AI, if you're working at the right organization, we should be trying to upskill you because you do need to use the technology. There's no way you can't use it. It's too much of a competitive advantage. And I don't know what's going to happen to those other quadrants. I don't think it's going to be an immediate replacement in society, but I do think that over the years, 5 years down the line, they're not going to be seeing the same salary growth as those people in the top quadrant. So your job and my job and our jobs is to move ourselves into that top quadrant. I'm going to try and summarize. I don't know what my time is like. Well, maybe we can have a chat after I'm done. I'll only take 2 minutes and we'll have a chat. So what I'm basically here trying to do is like advocate and promote what I see to be a new model. So the company I represent, I'm the CEO of Hallam. We're a marketing agency, but we've always tried to have a bit of a stance on the things of our time. So, you know, at the beginning of the pandemic, we really promoted the idea of work from everywhere. And then we became B Corp and we started turning down like clients who were destroying the planet. And then last year, we had an opportunity to sell the business to private equity, but we decided not to because it becomes soulless. So we sold it to our employees. And now we're 100% employee owned. And the point I'm making there is let's take a position, let's have a stance. And the stance I'm here trying to promote for all of our organizations, not just our own, is what I'm calling value-led AI transformation. Value-led AI transformation. And it's value-led, one, because it's actually connected to human values, and two, because the objective of it is let's use the technology to deliver superior value for our customers. That's the objective, right? rather than saying that the objective is, actually I'm aiming towards layoffs as the objective. And that is actually the default position in most companies. We reject that notion completely. I don't think it has to be the aim. I don't think it's even the right decision on a business basis. And I think the times that we live in require leaders within companies, I think they require people within marketing teams to take a position on these matters. And it doesn't mean it always has to be an ethical or some sort of social justice position, but to take a position on these matters. And to try and tie it all together now, because when you take a position, when you speak about your principles, when you connect yourself to your values, you become both distinctive and trustworthy. And the entire presentation has been saying that distinctiveness and trustworthiness are the cornerstones of the new marketing. It's distinctive because only you hold those values, only you have those principles. And it's trustworthy because you know when someone's speaking out their values, you can tell, right? So it enhances both trust and distinctiveness. And this is not new. Patagonia have been doing this for years with sustainability and environmentalism, but even if it's not that, classically, Apple have been doing this when they championing thinking differently and championing innovators. All of the best marketing is about connecting back to principles and values. Brand marketing is actually an expression of principles. It's an opportunity to reconnect with who we are. And you know that's the thing that actually AI can't replicate. It can't replicate our ability to have soul, our ability to inspire, our ability to have hope. It can't replicate any of that. So that has to be poured into our work. And the more we can let go of the mechanized version of marketing that we've been taught for so long, that's what's going to get automated. So to summarize, my name's Jake Third. I'm the CEO of Hallam. We're a B2B marketing agency. This talk's been irreplaceable. And thank you. Questions?